All right. We are now live. Hello, chat. Hello, viewers. Welcome, everybody. Go ahead. Let me give me 1 minute to get some background music going. Um, this is maybe not the best background music for the change of plans, but that's what I had planned to start with. All right. All right. So, chat, I got some bad news. Unfortunately, we will not be concluding, or will not be playing the finale as I had originally planned for tonight. We are missing Jamella's player, Puzzle Pulsar, who is somewhat critical in the finale that I had planned, as it was revolving around their character's arc. I do not know what has befallen Pulsar. He is not He is incommunicado.
Yeah.
So, since this today was going to be the finale anyway, I do not wish to reschedule at this point when Puzzle has not communicated with me. So, what we are going to do is we are just going to talk about what the finale was going to be, epilogue out those of us who are here, and then we'll say goodnight. So it will be a short one, but if you've followed along with our spacers so far, I hope you'll stick around for the ending. So I'm going to start with the opening that I had already planned on starting with. The war on Jara is over. The major bug nests have been taken out, though the military will be rooting out smaller patches of bugs for years to come. The irregular forces, such as our heroes, are being sent home, and a permanent security force is taking over, as new colonists are dispatched from Imperia and the rest of the Empire to resettle the formerly lost planet of Jara. Our heroes return on board their ship, the Empress, to their home world of Imperia, center of the humankind empire. There is a lot they have on their plate. They wish to investigate Myoxico, which is the company behind the creation of Jamella, the Plasmoid, as the company calls her. They know that there is a Dr. Rosaria, who is partially responsible for the creation of Jamella and ensured her survival as an embryo while the planet of Jara was evacuated. When they returned to the planet, there was a few side things which were going to befall the party. In interest of, since I'm going to talk about those briefly. Justice. You were going to be contacted by, well, not the cult, but the girl that you met at the convenience store, Corin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She had planned to invite Stray Justice to a movie date. She takes Stray Justice to see a horror film, The Midnight Slasher. How does Stray Justice react to this form of human entertainment?
I think after being pulled away from his planet and everything he's gone through with the party, it's getting to the point where it's harder to surprise him, and little moving pictures are probably not one of the things that are gonna phase him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, he's probably pretty into horror movies.
I think so.
Movies don't phase them, but that CGI though.
Yeah.
It's uncanny. But yes. Corin is also quite into horror movies. She invites Justice back to her apartment after for food and drinks. At least that's what she says. But back at the apartment, there is a knock on the door, and Sid, the weird leader of the cult who gave you the magic candle, shows up. Corin is angry that he's just shown up at her house without an invitation, but he begins speaking as if he is on a divine holy quest. He says he's had a vision from Odada, the god of undeath, and wants to talk to Justice. Justice, he tells you that he believes you have what it takes to be a true necromancer, a master of spirits and the undead, and he wants to perform a ritual with you to give you a new way to use the spirits that you have been collecting, the ghosts. Would Justice agree to go through such a ritual?
Probably, yeah.
I had a whole little mini game planned out for that, but again, we're summarizing.
Yeah.
So Sid leads Justice on through a spiritual ritual. You repeat the words that he has said, that he says, a prayer to Odada. You feel out the threads of magic connecting you to the ghosts that are bound to you, and you feel the connection, and then you command them to obey. You are successful in this trial, and would have gained a new way to use, a new option to use when you rage. Whenever you rage, you would be able to optionally consume one of your ghosts permanently. But if you did so, you would have gained a 1d8 necrotic damage bonus on all melee weapon attacks for the duration of that rage.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Clank would find themselves in a chat on the darknet with a user named Lugnite1337. Clank would have succeeded at a religion check because they have a 20 intelligence to know that Lug is the god of workers. On more primitive planets, they're called the god of peasants. But they are the god of anyone who works for a living. Farmers, craftsmen,
How are you
artists.
supposed to pronounce it? I always pronounced it Loch.
I don't know.
You're talking about... Because there's the Celtic guy, yeah.
Yes. I don't know. It's Celtic, so I'm sure that there are 6 different pronunciations that are all correct, depending on which part of...
And they're only a half a street away.
Yes. I pronounce it Lug, but I might be wrong. Yes, Lug is the god... Lug, in my setting, is the god of workers. Workers, craftsmen, artists, anyone who creates something for their living. So I would have told Clank, you would know that seeing someone use it with the username Lugnite1337, Lugnite, is basically waving a anarcho-communist flag as their username. You would know that. Because the most devout followers of Lug are anarcho-communists. But Lugnite, this user, was going to share a bunch of information with Clank anonymously over this darknet, in quite a panic. Lugnite would be trying to send Clank pictures, videos, audio files, Word documents that he claims are all evidence of a large illithid presence on Imperia, and a government cover-up about how great the infiltration has gotten in order to curb panic. Lugnite shows some of the evidence to you immediately, evidence of business leaders and politicians being illithids in disguise. This includes a series of video recordings showing a certain representative being assassinated twice. Once by an illithid to be replaced, and then again by government operatives taking out the illithid and replacing him again with someone under a disguise spell. Lugnite, as he is transferring this data to Clank, is afraid he has gotten attention from someone powerful. He doesn't know if it's the illithid or the Imperial government that is on his trail, but he knows someone is after him. After the last of the data is transferred, his final message is, "They are coming." And he never again replies.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a start of a horror movie.
But Clank has suddenly received all of this information, and as you go through it, it does seem to be the same information that he claimed it to be. These are security recordings showing a illithid on Imperia, and disguise spells failing, bodies with brains removed, and other signs of illithid presence in the halls of power on Imperia, but also a lot of evidence of government cover-ups trying to keep this information secret. Does Clank do anything immediately with this information, or does he hold on to it for now?
I would immediately try to erase any track I have.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure there's no way this leads back to me. And then after that, I would hold on to it for a bit to make sure everything's all clear.
Okay. So while you're holding on to it, the investigation into Jamella's background. Captain Gabe.
Yes.
How would you be going about this? Are you going to, like, you have a couple of bits of information. You know that there was the vice president of the company who hired those bounty hunters. His name was Vice President Yamada. You also know the name of the scientist who led the Plasmoid project was Dr. Rosaria. And you also know the name of the company, Myoxoco. Who would you try and contact, or what would have been your general approach?
Don't trust the company. They're too big. Don't trust the suit.
Mm-hmm.
Trust the scientist. Trust the one who actually got their hands dirty and is part of the work. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Try and contact them.
All right. You are able to get their contacts. They they have, public social media under their real name, and you are able to get in contact with them. He is happy to meet with Jamela and Gabe privately. You meet him at a local diner. A diner run by a Minotaur man named Gordon Bullsey. Irrelevant reference to another campaign. But at the Bullsey diner, you meet Dr. Rosaria, and Dr. Rosaria shares with you some information. He is overjoyed to see Jamela and acts as if, yes, Convalescence. It was a reference to the guy originally, but I also put that same NPC in a different campaign. So it's a double reference. But Dr. Rosaria would say that, would greet Jamela as if he was meeting a family member. He's overjoyed to see her and acts proud of how grown up she has become. Jamela's probably a little weirded out by that, but as you sit down and talk, he explains how Jamela was created. At some point, you probably learn that Jamela is a chimera, and contained some human DNA among others. The human DNA making up Jamela was taken from his granddaughter, who died in an accident. He replaced the human DNA that was supposed to be used with hers. Puzzle is not here to tell us how Jamela reacts to this, but I imagine she reacts with confusion and surprise. But as she does so, a armored van would have pulled up, revealing a team of bad guys, corporate security and bounty hunters, who would have attempted to capture Jamela. I imagine that probably would not have gone well for them, but that would have depended on how many of you were actually attending this meeting. If it was just Gabe and Jamela, then might not have gone as well. If the whole party was there, they probably would not have succeeded. But regardless, at some point, whether forcibly taken by these captors or a invitation sent later, I imagine the party would have eventually made their way to meeting with Vice President Yamada in the at the top of the tower of Mexico's building. Yamada was going to offer Gabe a shit ton of money to enough to retire 10 times over if he betrayed the team and Jamela. I assume Gabe would not have taken such an offer?
You remember that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
Where... Elaborate?
Where
you narrow that down massively.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to... Gabe pulls out a gun. It's like, no. It's pointed directly at his head. It's like, no. You stepped on shit right there, buddy.
Yep. And as expected, this would then turn to a final confrontation. Yamada's bodyguards, the bounty hunters in the room, and additional security forces from other parts of the building would have joined the fray. At some point, either you would have shot Yamada and revealed his disguise, or his guards all destroyed, he would have revealed himself manually. And Yamada...
I think Gabe would have just, to piss him off, got him in the kneecap.
Well then, when you shot him in the kneecap, his disguise would fail, and he would have revealed himself to be what he truly was. One of the Mind Flayer infiltrators.
Oh no.
Which would have made this fight a little more difficult for you. But not outside of your power level. Now as level 6 characters. He would have given a speech talking about how the plasmoid needed to be dominated and controlled by the Illithid in order to further the grand design. And then you would have killed him because you were the player characters, and that's typically what you do when faced with Illithid.
Yeah.
Before he dies, I would want to whisper in here. I know about all your friends, dude, just to see the panic before he dies.
Yes. And then we would have had a cool escape sequence out of the building, to escape the corporate security that is coming after you, and you would have made your grand escape. And then we would have moved into the epilogue. Jamela's personal backstory having been revealed, her connection to Dr. Rosaria understood, Dr. Rosaria wanting to be in contact with Jamela and continue to monitor her and her growth of her abilities. and Myoxoco's illithid connections. Would have been a type of ending that leaves open a lot of future things, but also leaves this story sort of concluded.
Yeah.
And I would have then asked,
Yeah.
where do each of you go from here? Do you reveal? Do you share the information Lugnite sent you? Do you what else do you do? What
I
would be your
probably
future?
make a dead switch.
Mhm.
Basically, if I go make like a chain link virus that like shares this with everyone.
A dead man switch to
Yes.
to reveal all the Illithids and the government's secrets.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I would probably try to keep that a secret from everyone else because it's just unnecessary to make everyone else a target.
Mhm. Makes sense.
And based off if everyone else is like leaving the crew and all that, I would probably go more into isolation
Mm.
and still trying to research who the hell made me,
Mhm.
but using also the illicit as blackmail to try to get leeway.
Oh, so you're gonna try and like blackmail the Illithid or the government into helping you?
Yeah, basically saying like, "Hey, I could help you out, or I could be your best friend or your worst enemy," type of thing.
Interesting. Very cool.
Try to get all the resources I can and try to get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Because after everyone disappears around me, I was like, "All right, you can make more power."
All right.
And that dead man switch would be the number one thing before I even attempt it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Don't want to let them know you have that information when there's a possibility of, them just killing
Yeah.
you before you can do anything with it. Yeah.
Not necessarily blackmail, more of like greasing the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
What about Stray Justice? What's his future going to be like?
Yeah. I think I think he does feel still probably some amount of indebtedness to the crew and stays in contact with them and will go help them with stuff when they ask him. But in general, I'm not sure he's taken to spacefaring. He'll probably spend a lot more of his time hanging out with the definitely not cult on Imperia and just try to move forward and also probably get like involved in living up to his name and looking at crime that's happening on planet that isn't being acknowledged.
So going to become a spooky cult member vigilante.
Essentially, yeah.
I think that's very cool for Stray Justice. And what of Gabe?
First things first, fun comedic scene. He goes and gets his eyes checked. He needs glasses now.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
He dreaded this day for years because he's basically. That's another thing. The backstory for Gabe never came out. He's basically been running away from the Merc group that he betrayed all those years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's an old man. He hasn't heard hell or high water from them in decades at this point. They may not even be around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And he's getting older. He ain't got much more time left to live. He's been through battles and shit. He's thinking of finding a goddamn RV park, placing the Empress there, and just kind of letting the days go by unless Auntie Wei needs like a real big job from him, or some whippersnapper needs some help with an abusive ex or something. Like
Mhm.
he wants to be there to be like the weird grouchy grandpa
Mhm.
who everyone like respects and invites to family gatherings, and everyone goes like, "Oh, who's related to him? We don't know. I thought he was related to you."
Local
wants to-
cool old guy.
He
Mhm.
wants to be like, he just kind of falls into that. I want to help people. I carry and move help as much as I can.
You're that grandpa that has stories no one believes. Yeah, I helped a god before.
Sounds wonderful. All right.
Just for clarification, mine would also be able to contact people, but at first I would be isolated until I get my network set up.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and of course Heskey has moved back to his father's company, and goes back to being. They've had their adventure, I suppose, and are. That's enough being shot at. I'm gonna go and be rich.
Fair.
And yeah, and I have no idea what Jamella's future will be, but I suspect that they would continue being in a part of a way of life where they can get into a good scrap every now and then. So they probably join a new crew and make their way around. I'm gonna take a sip of my invisible water because there's been a hydrate redeem.
What's Gabe's real name, if you want to share that?
I can't remember what it was gonna be. I was gonna like I kind of let that be kind of a back pocket. What would be more appropriate in the bit? So I don't know.
Yeah,
All
fair
right.
enough. I mean, I don't know who made me, so
It's fair.
Yeah.
This could be like Corpo, Street Kid, and No Man vibe. I'm just saying the three in. I just want to point that out. Like Stray Justice in the streets, me becoming a corp, and we have a No Man.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's good endings for everyone. I'm sorry that the campaign got a little at the end, but
I think it's. I don't think anybody. There's no fault in anything. It's just
Sometimes it's unavoidable.
yeah. Yeah. So thank you guys for playing. I really do appreciate it. I feel as if this campaign was not my best work by a long margin, but I am glad that we got to put a little cap on it at the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank you guys for playing. I'm gonna go ahead and if anyone else has anything else they'd like to say, if not, I think we'll just go ahead and wrap up.
I want to say, if anyone's here at the end of the game, hey, thanks for watching. You know.
And we got a few viewers over there, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys for being here, and thank you everyone who's been here all along. I'm gonna pop us over to the stream ending page, and I do just want to wrap things up with one more thing. I just want to say I do run games full time as a professional game master, and I'm starting some new games soon. Those links about those specific games are old. I forgot to update my play thing. But if you go to startplaying.game/gm/kb, you can see the 2 new games that have not had their first session yet that I'm getting ready to start, which are The Dark of Hot Springs Island, which is an old school Essentials hex crawl game, and A Common Mistake for Beginners, which is a campaign I am running in the Goblin Slayer TRPG system. So if either of those sound like something you might want to play with me in, you can go over to startplaying.games/gm/kb and read the full write-up and sign up if you like. Of course, follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky for updates about all the things I'm doing. The last thing I want to say is we are starting a new campaign in this time slot next Monday. Next Monday, I'm starting a GURPS campaign here on stream called Void Empire Episode 1 Dawn of Defiance with the players from the Vault of King Midas campaign. Well, from the second part of that. So no Pan, but yes, Marilyn. And that is a Star Wars-inspired homebrew setting, which will be a lot of fun. We've got a four-armed assassin droid and a Jedi with the serial numbers filed off, and a psychic dolphin, and a psychic frog, and a furry cyborg. It'll be a lot of fun, so come check that out. And of course, everything I do is archived on YouTube. So we're gonna go ahead and head out. I am going to raid into another VTuber right now. I'm gonna go send you guys over to Gloop Queen, who is she's playing some retro game. I remember it was called Tails Adventure. So it's she described it on her Discord as Tails Metroidvania. I know nothing about this game, so but that sounds hilarious and terrible. And Gloop Queen is hilarious and awesome. So I'll send you guys over there. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
So long, farewell. Thanks for all the fish.
Indeed. All right. And raid now.